The supply ship had miscalculated again. Kalen stood in the meal distribution line aboard the transit station, watching the counter with growing unease. 43 passengers. 40 food trays. She was number 44. The Zorith cubs noticed before the adults did. Their large eyes tracked the trays as they were handed out, their whiskers twitching with each count. Kalen had been traveling with the group for 6 cycles now, ever since the academic exchange program placed her on their homeward-bound vessel. The cubs had been curious about her at first. Humans were rare in this sector. A human traveling alone was almost unheard of. Vash, the eldest of the cub group, stood near the front. His silver fur caught the station's artificial light as he accepted his tray. He glanced back at Kalen, then at the remaining passengers, then at the trays. His ears flattened slightly. Kalen smiled and waved him forward. It was fine. She had gone longer without food before. Earth had taught its children about hunger in ways the galaxy's protected species could never understand. Her stomach would complain, but she would survive. Humans always did. The line moved forward. The Zorith adults collected their trays with polite gratitude, their attention focused on finding seats in the crowded dining area. The cubs moved in a small cluster, as they always did. Vash led them to a corner table, but his gaze kept returning to the line. 39. 40. 41. Kalen stepped up to the distribution window. The attendant, a four-armed Kellis with tired eyes, looked at his scanner and then at the empty rack. His face fell. "I apologize," he said, his translator converting his regret into flat words. "The manifest was incorrect. We are short by 3 trays." Kalen nodded. "It happens. I can wait for the next meal cycle. That is 8 hours away." "I know." She kept her voice light. "I will be fine." The 2 passengers behind her were Zorith adults, administrators returning from a conference. They looked uncomfortable. One began to speak, perhaps to offer to share, but Kalen shook her head. "Please, do not worry. Enjoy your meals." She turned away before they could protest. The walk to an empty seat felt longer than it should have. She was aware of eyes following her. The Zorith had keen senses. They could probably hear her stomach's complaints even if she could not. Kalen found a seat near the viewing window and pulled out her data pad. She would read. Distraction was a useful tool. She had learned that early in life. The cub's table erupted in soft, urgent whispers. Kalen glanced over and found all 7 of them staring at her. Vash stood, his tray in his hands. The other cubs followed his lead, each lifting their own trays. They moved as one unit, weaving through the crowded dining area. Vash reached her first. Without a word, he set his tray on her table. He used his claws to carefully divide the portion in half, then pushed one half toward her. "Vash, no," Kalen began. The second cub arrived. A small female named Rin with russet fur. She divided her tray the same way, sliding half toward Kalen. "You do not have to." The third cub, the fourth, the fifth. Each one divided their meal with the precision of a mathematical equation, then pushed the portions toward her. They said nothing. Their faces were serious, almost solemn. Vash met her eyes. His were dark and clear and held something that translation software could never capture. By the time all 7 cubs had contributed, Kalen had a full meal assembled before her. More than full. The cubs had been generous with their divisions, each giving slightly more than half. The dining area had gone quiet. The Zorith adults watched with wide eyes. A few had stopped eating entirely. One elder, her fur gone silver with age, made a low sound in her throat. It was approval. Kalen's vision blurred. She blinked rapidly, surprised by the sudden moisture in her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice cracked on the second word. Vash clicked his jaw, a gesture of acknowledgement. The cubs returned to their table, their now smaller portions still adequate. They ate without complaint. Kalen looked down at the assembled meal. 7 different portions, combined with care. Each cub had given freely, without being asked. They had seen a need and responded with a unanimity that suggested they had not needed to discuss it. She picked up the utensil provided and took a small bite. The food was standard station fare, nutritionally complete but bland. It tasted like hope. An adult Zorith approached her table. It was one of the administrators who had been behind her in line. He inclined his head respectfully. "The cubs learned that from watching humans," he said quietly. 3 cycles ago, we hosted a human medical team. When our supplies ran low, they gave their portions to the injured. They said it was instinct. He paused. We did not understand then. We thought perhaps it was a cultural practice unique to your caregivers. But the cubs have been watching you since you joined our journey. They see how you always check if others need help before you rest, how you share your water rations without announcing it, how you work extra shifts so others can sleep. Kaylin set down her utensil. I am just doing what anyone would do. No, the administrator said gently. You are doing what humans do. And now our cubs are learning. He gestured to the table where the 7 cubs ate their smaller meals with contentment. They have never done this before. In our culture, we are taught to share when asked. Your species teaches something different. You share before the asking. He left her then, returning to his own table. Kaylin ate slowly, making sure to finish every portion. It would dishonor the gift to waste it. Around her, the dining area gradually returned to its normal noise level. But she felt the glances, the reassessment happening in dozens of minds. When she finished, she carried her tray to the return window. The cubs watched her approach their table. She stopped beside them and placed her hand over her heart, then extended it forward, palm up. It was a human gesture, but one she hoped they would understand. Vash stood and mimicked the motion. One by one, the other cubs followed, and no words were needed. The message had been delivered and received. Hunger could be shared, and in sharing, made lighter. It was a lesson Earth had taught through hardship. And now, in the quiet of a transit station, cubs from a world that had never known famine had learned it too. Kaylin returned to her seat by the window. 8 hours until the next meal. But her stomach was quiet now, and her heart was full. Outside, the stars moved past in their ancient patterns, indifferent to the small kindnesses that made survival possible. But inside, 7 cubs understood something new about the universe. They had learned that strength was not always about having enough. Sometimes, it was about making sure others did not go without. And that, Kaylin thought, was worth more than any full tray could ever be.